everyone. My name is Emmanuel Omole, and I'm joined by Kingsley. Hi, Kingsley.
Hi, Emmanuel. Hi, everyone. My name is Kingsley Mkpandiok.
Yeah, so we are both from Chaos, specifically Chaos Africa, and today we are excited to share our insights on onboarding designers into open source projects. As a designer, I've had the privilege of contributing to open source through platforms like Chaos, Oscar Africa, and all these accolades. I think I'll give back to Kingsley, who has helped my journey into open source like easy. My journey to open source is straightforward, but Kingsley had helped me demystify the process, and that's what we're going to be sharing with you guys today on how, as a designer, you could get onboarded as a you could contribute to open source as a designer. Kingsley, let's start.
Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah. Uh, it's just become a common thing, right, within the open source ecosystem that, a lot of people just believe that open source is exclusively a developer's thing, technical thing. All right, the culture is changing gradually, but however, right, we're still finding ourselves, right, finding a lot of designers, still unable to contribute, make impact to open source project. So yeah, we're going to be sharing specifically how, some of the things we've done, right, within chaos community has helped, introduce more designers, right, into open source. And Emmanuel here is going to specifically share his personal experience. I had the privilege of onboarding, Emmanuel to Chaos Project, where we both contribute currently. So Emmanuel, would you mind sharing, your personal open source experience and, on joining Chaos Project? How has it been, you know?
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kingsley. So as a designer, getting started as a designer in Africa, in Nigeria specifically, um, being a self-taught designer also, you have this urge as a designer to just want to do more because of our curiosity nature. We want to just get out and get our hands dirty. And at this stage, as a designer, when I was coming up about 4 or 5 years, I knew one of the ways I've read article, watch video was through open source. But back then, we had a lot of difficulties in terms of getting on board on projects. We saw like the way I saw open source was like open source project then was like this developer friendly thing because everything was like GitHub, you have to go to GitHub, create a GitHub account. I did that all because of open source. But when I get on GitHub, different terminologies that are not familiar to designers like commit, all this were like I don't understand. And that really lingers for like 2 3 years. I couldn't contribute, even though I had the love to, get my hands dirty and contribute to open source. I was also fortunate to join a community called Oscar, where fortunately for me, I was able to contribute to like the Oscar Festival. And that was kind of my first contribution I did. And gracefully, a few months later, I met Kingsley and started talking about open source, his experience at Chaos and everything. And at that time, he created like a blueprint for how he was able to start, like how he started contributing to open source and how he's been a maintainer at Chaos. And I mean, he created like a blueprint that I think we're also going to share today on how other designers could join. And today, a contributor to an open source project called Ogo at Chaos, and I've been contributing for more than a year now, and it's been a very very great journey for me as a designer, and I'm feeling fulfilled as being able to contribute to open source through the help of Kingsley. So over to you, Kingsley. That's my experience.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel. So I'm just going to talk about, like, specifically in this case, since the whole purpose of this study is to help more people, right, get involved, more designers to start contributing to open source. So I'm going to talk about our case study, what the things we've done, right? There are a lot of things, in the course of, preparing for this talk, we had to conduct a brief survey, right, with a selected group of designers, and we actually got feedback and all that. And then, of course, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of reasons why most designers don't contribute. But I'm just going to highlight some of the issues I feel like we've been able to address, and has helped more designers get involved, has helped more designers contribute, right, to open source. So the chaos, the chaos story. Personally, I started contributing to chaos around 2022, and then on joining chaos, I also discovered I didn't have any particular person to run to ask question, which also brings us to one of the challenges being a clear contribution guideline, right? Who do you ask question? Who do you reach out to? You just join a community and things are overwhelming. So
Yeah.
one of the things I was able to, one of the problems, one of the challenges I was able to solve after having a good understanding of the basic concept and goal of Chaos Africa, right? I was able to outline some things that needed to be done, and I was able to I created a Figma workspace, of course, which for the purpose of collaboration it allows other designers to interact. But as a designer, you can definitely use any tool of your choice. So yeah, so like one of our proven approaches is the fact that we had like this clear listed out like contribution guidelines pinned to our Slack, right, where you are able to like, I think in the course of this I'm going to share some screenshots too, where you're able to see and find projects, ongoing projects, how to go about it, where to find assets. These are questions I personally had. And interesting thing that now something interesting happened when I created that document. It wasn't limited to me. I also open source the documents within the community, such that for every new designer joining the community, and then of course you have questions, and then maybe in the course of getting involved in our bi-weekly calls, because that's also one of the things we have in place to also help manage new designers coming in. So in the course of the calls and all that, and if specific unique questions are being answered, obviously you can't have like 20 people ask the same question. Though in some cases it's just common that way, but then designers have specific questions, and then when the specific questions are being addressed, as a designer we encourage you to go back to that document, right? You add a question and then the possible answer to that question, because that could be helpful to another designer. So taking this approach, and together with a bi-weekly design call, right, it actually has been like one of our success story, right, in the chaos design community, where number of contributors has significantly increased. Personally, after I joined, I've personally onboarded not less than 40 designers personally to Chaos Project, most of which are still actually like contributing, like just like you have Emmanuel with me on this call. So the what I want to highlight here, right here, is that one is clear and accessible contribution guideline. Like I said, most designers have indicated interest to contribute, and then like, okay, we can't contribute because there are no clear contribution guideline. We have these bi-weekly check-ins and onboarding calls. And which also leads me to another point. I'm going to allow Emmanuel to talk about that, is that besides the clear contribution guideline bi-weekly, we have a design system and design documentation in place that also helps guide what we do and all that also help other designers that are not like maybe pro. And this is not just restricted to product design, it cut across all design stack. So I'm just going to allow Emmanuel talk more on design system and documentation. About to you,
Yeah.
Emmanuel.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kingsley. Yeah, I mean, one of the proven ways that work is having a design system. As designers, at every stage of design you are, definitely you must have one stage of your career heard about what design system is. And so we're not going to bore you with what a design system is, but we're just going to talk about how it has really helped the community for more designers to join. So design system is sort of like a set of guidelines, sort of can call it like rules that will guide you as a contributor, or even for a project now. If you are designing a project, it's like set of guidelines, styles, guides that will help you to execute your project faster. Now, in the case of chaos, these are like design languages, brand style guides, color system, typography system that you don't need to bore yourself in terms of, oh, I want to contribute to a project like Ogo, which I think um, we have some screenshots that we added. Yeah, so if you want to contribute to a project like Ogo, you don't necessarily have to think about what colors you need to use, what typography you need to use. So there's a defined design system already, so which kind of lowers the barrier of you contributing, like thinking about what colors to use. So that design system, we also have like a general design system, like a brand style guide that even currently we are working to really improve one of like our major chaos at large design system that would also enhance our work as a designer. So we have a design system that has really helped so many people contribute to projects. So that's one of the proven way which we have done it. And also we keep on working on documentation. Documentation never finishes. We keep improving it. We keep updating and improving it. So I will throw back to you, Kingsley.
Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel. So just to probably just add just a little thing to the design and documentation, is that now again, emphasis on the fact that this is not, I know product designers are a lot more, familiar with the design system thing and documentation, but even brand designers, you're supposed to
Yeah,
have documentation for brand and all that. So it's also very important to mention that even down to like flyer templates,
yeah,
presentation templates, and all that, because designers of different skill, you're an illustrator, you're a motion designer, you're a 3D designer, there's a place for you because that
yeah,
there's a system and documentation in place that guides you. And these are actually one of the proven things we've done that has also helped even people that are not designers, that are not pro, to easily join and contribute to chaos projects. So lastly, one of the points I also want to touch on is having dedicated project leads in addition to the design maintainer. So I am the design maintainer at Chaos Africa, right? Where of course, I oversee like the design operations and things going on within the community. However, one of the proven strategy and what I felt has worked within the community is that like just within the community we have for example, like as you can also see on the slide, there's one of our contributors there, Lami, and then there's Felix, and so Lami, for example, Emmanuel has been talking about mentioning Ogo and all that. So Lami has really been like the major lead in Ogo and assisted by Emmanuel. And then Felix, one other project we had called our first project was being led by Felix. Now, what this has done is that it's sort of like decentralized the leadership, right? And everyone is involved. So unlike some communities where you probably just have the maintainer is actually the one controlling everything, and then you run into the maintainer, and sometimes these maintainers also have other engagements, and sometimes they are overwhelmed, and sometimes they struggle with staying active, and also responding to other contributors who need certain feedback and all. So getting more people, sub leads, involved in this project has also really helped, even in terms of overall communication. Also, as you can also see in scenarios like this, where this is a request that was made by one community members, the chaos community manager, right? And then of course a contributor indicated interest, and why she was able to quickly fix this up, was also because there was a template. I know pretty much Aishat is a product designer, but this was kind of like a template. I think it was just a YouTube thumbnail design and needed fixing. And there was a template set up for this and all that, which also, goes under the design system we talked about and documentation. And this was very easy for her to jump on and fix the issue. So bottom line is that at the end of it all, right, most designers want to be a part of open source. Most designers want to contribute to open source. And it's also really critical that we we emphasize the need to really put out what exactly do you want these designers to do when they join your community, and and setting all these systems and structure in place. Another thing too we feel is also very important, to also mention within the community. I know most part of this talk so far we've been talking about the design, but it's not always about Figma. So it's important to also mention that open source is not just, it doesn't start and end with Figma or any other tool of choice, right? If you're an Adobe Suite designer, it's also fine, but it doesn't start and end with your design tool. Open source is first about community. It's first about community building, engaging, getting involved. So I think part of our slide too is also even talking about building relationship. Most designers come in and they just feel isolated, right? And sometimes, especially when you are contributing to cross-cultural project, and you feel like, like I don't know people here, there's nobody from my region and all that, so you find it difficult building relationship. But it's also important to emphasize that the only way we can get most designers in is also building, giving the impression that open source is about building relationship, building connections, and there's this famous quote about, like, I came to contribute, but I stayed because of the community. At the end of it all, it's very easy to reach out to someone for help or assistance because you've been able to establish a relationship. But when you just stay as an individual on your own and you're not engaging, you most likely, nobody will probably know what's going on. So maintainers, right, project owners, right, need to promote the concept of relationship to help onboard more people, and not just onboarding people, but people that are active, right, and also staying engaged within the community. So things like bi-weekly calls is also very important in helping. So you don't just gather people on Slack and then there's nowhere for people to actively communicate. So bi-weekly calls will also help build this relationship, build this connection. So Emmanuel, I don't know if there's something you want to add to this. Just chipping
Yeah,
in.
yeah, I think it's also very important, just like what you said, it's not always in Figma. Designers, we are one of that profession that we are always on tools. We keep talking about Figma, keep talking about FigJam. Like, it's not all about that. Just like what Kingsley said, I'm not going to say too much. Building relationship outside the tool itself is very important. Attending events, because it's all about community. It's all about, it's open source. It's you contributing your own quota, right? And beyond what you're contributing, you need to also talk to people about, okay, what is the impact of this project even to the community? Because when you understand the essence of a project, like when the importance of something is known, it's easy for you to want to, put in your time. So maybe, talk to like the project owner. There are so many people in the community. Just reach out to anybody. Like I do reach out to like community members. I reach out to like Sean, who like is like one of the project leaders. Ogo. We just talk about, okay, what Ogo is. Just try to understand the impact of this project to the community, and also can also spoil your you to want to contribute more to such projects. So not just you living in Figma and thinking everything is in Figma. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's probably like, like a last words, just that for us to have in fact, I don't think open source would be complete without designers, right? So
Yeah.
this whole this whole idea is pushing for a more inclusive, right, open source ecosystem where we have more and more designers getting involved, right? And another important point I also want to note is that when I said it's not always about Figma, an aspect of it, we talked about is the relationship. The other aspect of it is that uh, being a designer does not necessarily mean that when you join a community, you must always design. And that's the only problem you can solve. First of all, as a designer, you're a creative problem solver, right? So it means you can prefer solutions that doesn't just have to do with design or pixels, pushing around rectangles and all that. So it could be, you know, looking at, it could be conducting research, right? It could also be offering your own user feedback, your own insights. It could be usability testing, you know, and all that. It could just be a ton of other things, just joining a call and then listening to,
Critiquing.
maybe critiquing, you know,
Yeah.
and giving your feedback. So it's also really important, because most times people feel like most designers join in, just like we've had something in the case in chaos, and then people feel like, oh, what can I do, what can I do? You know, Emmanuel highlighted something very key too, is that, you know, when you understand the project, it's easy for you to contribute. So when you understand the project, you know, the contribution will now transcend just limiting yourself to design. There are several other ways you can, you know, provide. So in conclusion, most importantly, if we also as a community, right, as an ecosystem, right, want to see more designers, you know, come in, I feel like maintenance, right, should adopt, you know, some of these strategies. There are several other solutions, but these are just proven strategies, proven approaches, right? We've really adopted in Chaos Africa, in Chaos Global too. That has also worked, as
Yeah.
Chaos being big on diversity, inclusion, and I'm also so excited that some of these steps we've taken has really healed some very tremendous, you know, impact. So, Emma, do you have any last words?
My last word is happy to be able to contribute to open source, and well, thanks to you. And just like what you said, other maintenance, on other ecosystem or communities, try out these approaches, and you definitely going to get some designers like me contributing to open source.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.